The signal came from a planet that was not supposed to exist anymore. High Speaker Valen sat on the silver deck of his flag vessel and stared at the green light on his console. 40 ships stood their ground in the deep dark behind Earth's moon, their engines cold, their hulls dark, and their guns pointed straight at his fleet. They had not drawn a single weapon. The galaxy recalibrated its math anyway, because no one had ever seen 40 human ships refuse to run from 300 Imperial dreadnoughts. Daniel Cross did not look at the sky when the salt spray hit his face. He kept his calloused hands on the wet hemp line, pulling the fishing net over the low wooden gunwale of his boat. The sea off the Portuguese coast was cold and gray. Then the radio on his hip went dead, the lighthouse beam behind him vanished, and the world stopped for 11 seconds. Every speaker on Earth hissed with a high, thin tone that made a man's teeth ache. Cross set the net down, wiped his palms on his trousers, and reached into his coat pocket. His fingers closed around a cold block of matte black obsidian. A thermal hairline fracture ran straight across its spine, split wide by the heat of a war he had tried to forget 20 years ago. A black military shuttle dropped through the coastal fog 30 seconds later, its rotors kicking up white foam against the rocks. Specialist Finn stepped out onto the wet gravel before the skids touched down. Her green jacket was soaked through, and her eyes were narrow. She did not ask how he was. She did not offer a hand. She held out a hard drive bay with a red seal across the latch. "The Swiss bunker is in a state of panic," Finn said, her voice cutting clean through the sound of the surf. "The Veron hegemony gave us 30 days to bow. General Vance is already drafting the terms of surrender. He wants your signature on the command handoff." Cross did not look at the drive. He stepped into the cabin, pulled the door shut against the wind, and looked out at the sea. Vance always was quick to sign things he didn't build. Tell the pilot to head north. We aren't going to Switzerland. The shuttle turned away from the coast, rising fast into the dark cloud deck over Europe. If you know why a quiet deck is more dangerous than a loud one, leave a thumbs up and stay tuned. Down below, the cities were bright with fear, but up here the air was thin and quiet. Finn opened her tactical pad, displaying 300 silver ships drifting in open formation near the Sol system staging sector. The alien fleet looked like a swarm of long needles, clean and bright, floating in the dark. They had taken 30 worlds in 50 years without losing a single capital ship. Their long-range energy lances could burn a city from 2 light seconds away. "They think we are waiting for them to reach Earth," Finn said, pointing to the blue vector line dragging across the screen. "They sent a 6-ship vanguard ahead to collect our answer early. Subcommander Saul is leading it. He expects a surrender document." "He expects a speech," Cross said. He reached down and took the drive bay from her hand, cracking the red seal with his thumb. "General Vance built a bunker under a mountain because he thought steel walls kept people alive. He forgot that a bunker is just a grave with a door." 2 hours later, the shuttle cleared the atmosphere over the lunar North Pole. The far side of the moon was a wall of black rock, unlit by the sun, untouched by any commercial radio band. The shuttle killed its main thrusters and drifted on cold gas into the deep shadow of the dark craters. A massive metal door, buried under 300 feet of lunar regolith, slid open without a sound. Inside the dark bay sat 40 heavy warships. They were short, thick, and ugly. Their outer hulls were coated in cold resonance dampeners 3 times heavier than galactic standard, dark as charcoal and rough as unpolished iron. Specialist Akono stood on the gantry of the lead vessel, his face grease-stained, holding a heavy steel sledge in his right hand. He was tapping the iron jaw of a fuel valve, his ears listening to the low hum of an overclocked fission core. "The resonance dampeners are locked," Akono called down as Cross stepped off the ramp onto the high catwalk. "We built them in total darkness like you asked, Admiral. The hegemony scanners think this crater is empty rock, but these hulls are heavy. They don't turn fast." "They don't need to turn fast," Cross said, walking to the edge of the rail and looking down at the rows of black iron hulls. The hegemony spends 1,000 years perfecting long-range lances so they never have to smell their enemy. They don't know how to brawl. Subcommander Saul just dropped out of hyperspace past the orbital relay, Finn reported from the tactical deck behind them. Her fingers moved fast over her screen. 6 silver cruisers. They are holding at 50,000 kilometers, broadcasting their surrender demands on all channels. They are giving us 10 minutes to clear the lunar grid. Cross walked onto the bridge of the lead human ship, the iron deck vibrating under his boots. He did not order the shields raised. He did not order the energy arrays brought to full charge. He reached down to the main engine console and slammed his hand against the red primary engagement lever. "Drop the stealth shields," Cross said into the fleet comms. "All 40 ships full forward burn. Target the Vanguard. Close the distance now." The 40 black hulls surged out of the lunar crater like iron darts. They did not form a line. They did not clear their firing arcs. They fired their main fission thrusters at maximum pressure, burning hot and dirty, driving straight into the middle of the 6 silver cruisers. Subcommander Saul watched his tactical sphere turn from black to red in 2 seconds. The 4 compound eyes on his narrow silver face widened as 40 heavy targets appeared directly inside his ship's minimum engagement distance. His long-range lances flickered, firing bright blue beam lines that sliced through the outer armor of 2 human vessels. But the human ships did not turn away. They did not slow down. A black hull slammed directly into the side of the lead hegemony cruiser, its thick iron nose crushing the alien shield generator like an eggshell. "They are not evading," Saul screamed into his bridge recorder, his pale skin flushing purple as his ship rocked under a massive physical impact. "They are driving their ships directly into our hulls. Reverse thrusters, fall back." It was too late to fall back. At 500 meters, human kinetic cannons opened fire. Simple, heavy iron slugs tore through the thin silver armor of the alien vessels. Fire erupted in vacuum as 3 hegemony ships broke in half, their pressurized gas tanks exploding into white clouds. A 4th ship spun out of control, its bridge sheared completely off by a passing human warship. "Leave the last one," Cross commanded from his seat as his bridge shook from a near miss. "Let Saul run back to his fleet. I want High Speaker Valen to hear what happened here from a man who was in the room." Saul's single surviving cruiser turned on its axis and executed a desperate, blind jump into deep space, leaving 5 burning heaps of silver scrap drifting in the lunar shadow. On the bridge of the lead ship, Finn wiped a smudge of soot from her cheek and checked the damage report. 2 of our hulls took heavy beam cuts on their upper decks. Akono has teams welding steel plates over the breaches now. We lost 60 men in the impact. "Tell Akono to keep the engines running," Cross said, his voice flat and steady. "Valen won't wait 30 days now. He has 300 ships at the Sol system staging sector. He's going to bring them all." "General Vance is calling from the Swiss bunker," Finn said, holding out a flashing comms link. "He says you just started a war we cannot win. He's ordering you to return to Earth immediately." Cross took the link, looked at the small blue light for a second and dropped it onto the metal floor. He stepped on it with the heel of his heavy boot, crushing the circuit board into tiny bits. "We aren't defending Earth from home. If we fight 300 ships in our atmosphere, the sky burns and everyone dies. We are going to the Sol system." "That's 300 capital vessels," Finn said, her hand stopping over her console. "They have 3 lines of defense and heavy orbital stations. If we jump into their center, there is no way back." "We don't need a way back," Cross said. "We just need to make sure they never want to come here again." 10 minutes later, the 40 black ships lined up in the dark behind the moon. Their engines hummed with a deep, bone-rattling vibration as Akono pushed the fission reactors past their safety red lines. On the bridge, Cross pulled the fractured obsidian key from his coat and set it on the primary navigation console. The cold, dark stone reflected the red emergency lights of the bridge. "Jump," Cross said. Space tore open. The 40 human ships vanished from the lunar shadow and reappeared 3 seconds later in the very center of the hegemony staging sector. High Speaker Valen was in the middle of reviewing his fleet's logistics logs when his bridge alarm shrieked. 300 silver warships were anchored in neat, perfect rows around a massive central station. Suddenly, 40 black iron monsters materialized directly between his third and fourth battle lines. They were so close that their hull plates nearly touched the silver armor of the hegemony flagships. "Fire all lances," Valen roared, stepping forward on his 4 thin legs, his silver armor glowing under the bridge lights. "Destroy them." "We cannot fire," his tactical officer shouted, his 4 compound eyes darting across a screen covered in red collision warnings. "Their hulls are touching our ships. If we fire our long-range lances, the energy reflection will destroy our own fleet." "Then use kinetic weapons," Valen screamed. "We don't have kinetic weapons," the officer cried out. Cross did not wait for the aliens to figure out their mistake. "All ships free fire, use the iron slugs, ram anything with a command light." The Black Armada broke into 40 independent killing units. Akono stood in his engine room with his shirt soaked in sweat, holding his steel sledge in his hand as he manually hit a stuck fuel valve to keep the main drive burning. The ship surged forward, its heavy iron prow driving straight into the side of a 1,000-meter hegemony dreadnought. Steel screeched against silver composite armor. Hulls sheared, gas lines burst, and secondary explosions rippled through the alien formation. A silver cruiser tried to back away, but 2 human ships closed the gap, locking their boarding clamps directly onto its weapons ports and firing heavy explosive charges straight into its hull. Long-range beam fire from the outer hegemony lines struck their own sister ships as alien gunners panicked, trying to hit human targets that were weaving through their own ranks like feral dogs. Valen watched his tactical map dissolve into complete chaos. The clean, mathematical warfare his empire had practiced for 10 centuries was gone. In its place was a blood-soaked, close-quarters brawl where his ships were useless and the humans were trading their hulls one for one. A heavy human warship, its port side completely melted by plasma fire and its bridge open to vacuum, locked its main engines at maximum overload. It did not turn away. It accelerated straight toward Valen's flagship. Valen stood frozen as the massive black shape filled his forward viewport. No warning, no declaration, no mercy.